charging stations that I'm using here in the office park are level 2 chargers, and it takes 4 or 5 hours to put a full charge on. But, if I spend an hour every couple of days at it on a conference call, it's sufficient.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Karsten. How are you?
Downpouring outside. Just wonderful. And I think you are echoing, Barry.
Yes, I know. Christian told me. I'm. Yeah. As I was explaining, my microphone is on the laptop, but the audio is coming through the car through the car's Bluetooth system. So the echo cancellation is probably not working right. I'll just make sure I'm muted when I'm not talking during the meeting.
Can you avoid pothole?
Sorry, what's that, Michael?
I asked if you could also try to avoid hitting.
Oh, I'm not driving. I'm charging the car.
Oh, okay. Well, there definitely is an echo off your car. I can hear it. Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I can try. Let me just switch my audio system over. So. Okay. Yeah, so I've now switched away from the car. How does this work?
Let's see.
1, 2, 3.
Do I still have echo?
Yeah, it might take a small while to actually adapt to the new situation, so I wouldn't give up too early.
It sounds a bit better. It's not great, but it's okay.
My stereo has like 3 or 4 different EQ settings, including stadium and stuff like this. But I wonder if we should add automobile interior.
That's funny. Well, I mean, actually, it used to work better. When I was working from the car, I said I was just sitting in the front seat and had the microphone and the audio both going through the car, and that seemed to be fine. But I discovered that, of course, the steering wheel gets in the way. So I discovered that if I just put the seat all the way up and sit in the back seat, it's way more comfortable, and it's really like being in an office. Except now I'm too far away from the car microphone, and that doesn't work well. So I switched to using the microphone on the laptop. Maybe the right answer is just to use a headset. But anyway. So let's see who we have. I saw Marco is there, and Michael and Sean and Cabo.
And Ira mentioned he won't be here.
Yeah, Ira will not be here. So we basically have the usual suspects. We can wait a couple more minutes maybe and see if we get another 1 or 2 dropping in. Let's say we start at 5 after the hour. And Karsten, I presume you are going to be in Vienna?
Well, that depends a lot. I haven't booked my flight yet. And I have asked people who are on the attendance list whether they are coming, and some of them are still waiting for the travel exception they need from their CTO or somebody high up in the company. So I probably will make a last minute decision whether I'm coming or not.
Okay. Yeah, I'm coming. My company just requires that we show them proof of vaccination to get travel approval, and I did, and they did, so I'm good.
And generally, Vienna is right in the middle of the Omicron wave, so chances are by the time we have the IETF here, we'll be past that.
Right.
Okay. Shall we get started?
All right. It's 5 after.
Thanks, Marco, for volunteering to take a few notes. We have two major points on the agenda for today. One is the status of FileMagick, and the other is elision of the new elision proposal. Anything else we should add there? Hearing nothing, there was the question of the status of FileMagick. So yesterday a -08 was submitted, and I've already looked through that. It's mainly document cleanup in terms of what is normative, what is informative, and editorial changes. Carsten, brief question for you. In the last interim, you mentioned that there were a few easily contested historical statements, and I didn't see any changed. Was that just in the editor's copy, or was that already in the document?
Actually, I'm trying to remember when we actually made these changes, but I think the pull request 14 had the important changes there. 15 was just a cleanup, and that's what we published from. So I think these are now all covered.
Okay. For me, I'd like to ask one question about the document to the group, and that is, are you happy with sending this as it is off to the IESG? And I know that many of you may not have read -08, but considering the changes, I think that if you read 07 and were happy with that, you will be happy with 08 too. Hearing no comments, I would like to start, and given that the working group last call we had was on -02 and there were a few changes from that, and considering that the changes we had, the changes in the document were already previously discussed, I suggest we start a shortened working group last call, just 1 week. So everyone, please, if you have any comments, add them or look over the document once more, and if nothing comes up in that period, I will click the button and in that time also write the shepherd write-up with which this can progress to the IESG. Any more questions or comments?
Works for me.
Okay, then I think this was short, painless, and successful. And let's go to the next item on the list. That is Carsten with the topic of elision of values in CBOR.
You have to import those slides.
That used to work automatically, sorry.
No, it never worked automatically, but there were Meet Echo people around who did that for you without you noticing.
That's also kind of automation. Okay. We'll see whether this deck's ready to be shared. Yes, please try again.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so we have been looking at diagnostic notation in various environments. So, for instance, if you follow the Auth 48 for 1952, 1953, the COSI documents, there's tons of diagnostic notation in there for the examples. And that will only increase. And Michael noticed that often he actually doesn't want to put in the complete parsable example, but wants to only show the important parts. And in that case, it would be not necessary, but very useful to have a elision mechanism. And Michael mentioned byte strings. I added text strings to this list, and also arrays and maps. These often also have entries that you don't really need in the example. So the question is, can we add an elision mechanism to this to the diagnostic notation? And yeah, I just carved up a syntax. That's maybe not the final syntax, but to me it's pretty suggestive. So we just use 3 dots for a data item that is not supplied. So syntactically, the 3 dots can occur everywhere a data item can occur, and in a few more spaces. That will be next slide. And the semantics really is, this is not just a single data item, but it actually can be multiple data items. But we are not trying to express this 0 or more semantics visually. We just use the 3 dots, and this is meant to mean other things could be here as well. So that looks pretty good. When you look at the map, you see that since key and value are separate data items, you actually need to use the elision twice. And then Michael also had the observation that we sometimes want to provide some context in the text strings or byte strings that we are using. So being able to put in a elision in the middle of a string would be useful. That's easy for most byte strings, except the ones that look like text strings, because the ... is otherwise not syntactically allowed in a byte string. But in a text string, you actually would have to make use of the maybe slightly obscure syntax we have for concatenated strings in RFC 8610 Appendix G4. So we can always just end a string and start a new one. And here we just intersperse an elision to say some bytes, some characters, excuse me, could come between them. So this is the syntactical proposal. Obviously, to make this happen, I would need to actually implement Appendix G4. The current CBOR diagnostic package doesn't implement that, and there is an issue, has been an issue on the repo for more than a year. Sorry about that. So that will need to be done. But with respect to what's already standardized, this is a pretty minimal addition. Michael?
Sure if you're done, but I had a comment when you're done this part.
You're very quiet.
Hello? Hello?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
All right. I'm just speaking louder. All right. So I think that a big question we need to answer as a group is whether or not some of these things are, what happens when you parse them? Do you get an error or warning? What happens? You get, oh, yes, this is syntactically correct, but I'm not going to convert it to anything because it's incomplete. or what? And I think the other question is it a sensible thing that there's a tool that goes the other direction that takes a complete CBOR and you tell it, I don't want strings longer than X, and it puts the right, license in the other direction. I think that's not controversial, but I think the question is what happens when you parse something that's incomplete. Needs to be answered.
Yeah, I have a couple more slides about pretty much that question. So when we discussed the previous extension to the diagnostic notation, this was really just meant as something that humans write, and then that is processed by the diagnostic notation parser into your bog standard CBOR data item. And this one is actually a little bit different because the examples we use in RFCs are often, and I hope more and more, machine generated. So we want to be able to generate a CBOR data item that is then expressed as if it had elisions. And what I'm proposing is just to single out a tag. I use tag number 888 because it almost looks like an elision, an ellipsis, I mean. And we use that tag to actually indicate elision in cases when the diagnostic notation tool is configured to process these elisions. So when you write your example generator, you could have places where you use this tag, or you could write a little tool that looks at all strings, and if they are too long, they are turned into this tag number 888. So there are many ways to handle this, but we don't need to standardize those. The important part is that we have a standard route for converting between diagnostic notation and something that can be processed as a CBOR data item while maintaining these elisions. And there is a little more mechanics needed here. So to support these elisions inside of strings, you actually have to run the tag with an array where you provide the fragments of the string, and nil always stands for the part that is not provided. So what you see on the left side, what you might see in an example in an RFC, the CBOR diagnostic parser in elision processing mode would create this CBOR data item from it, and that could be then processed by an example verifier or whatever you have around for doing this. And that, of course, is also the inverse direction. So if your example generator wants to generate elisions, but actually is designed to generate a CBOR data item, then it could include these tag 888 in there. And if it then runs the CBOR diagnostic processor in elision processing mode, you get what's on the left side of the slide. Yeah, so one problem here is that the CBOR diagnostic code already has half a dozen flags you can set. We have to get a little bit control over the proliferation of these flags, but I think this one here is reasonable, and I don't think we will get too many of this kind over time. So that's the proposal. I haven't written up the text because I wanted to hear feedback first. And my plan would be to actually implement this. I think it's always important to have things implemented so you know whether you overlooked something. and then documented either as an addition to the other extended diagnostic notation draft, or maybe as a separate specification. We can discuss this. And one thing that maybe we want to think about, but I don't have anything useful that came out of my thinking about this, is there any interaction with CDDL on this? So could the CDDL tell the diagnostic notation processor where to do elisions, or could the diagnostic notation processor check examples whether the elisions are acceptable from the point of view of some special CDDL you cook up for that, or something like that? Right now, I haven't come up with a particularly persuasive use case, but let's think about that. That's it. Let me go back to the example slide. So I know that I would generate examples using this mechanism. So I'm motivated to make this happen.
Will take some thinking for me to know what to think of this.
So I don't know exactly how I would use this 888 tag in practice with example generation. But I'm happy to have it one way or the other. And I guess we need an argument somewheres maybe that says, if you see 888, then blow up.
Yes.
It's this is not correct. And so I kind of like that. That's okay. You can process it. It turns into this thing. There's a tag in it. People could see that it's broken. I'm fearful that it'll wind up as code somewhere, but there's lots of other stupid things people could do. So, not too worried about that.
Okay, I'm getting enough positive vibes that I will. Oh, Sean.
Wait my seconds for the audio to kick in. Hey, so I think, Carson, your point about using this to actually generate these from machines as opposed to by hand is actually valuable, and if this helps, I think I'm all for it. Because at the end of the day, right, with better machine generated stuff, you're actually showing what's really going to get used. It saves people checking it later as well.
Thank you. Yeah, Christian's point is there will be lots of ways to abuse this, and I think that's why it's important to have a special flag you give to the diagnostic notation tools to indicate that you actually want to use this. So this is not something that the data can tell you that this is in use, but the invocation of the tool needs to indicate that this is actually something that is supposed to happen.
Yeah, that's great. This will curb a few of the bad ideas that I'm developing.
Good. Okay.
As you mentioned, the interaction with CDDL, I wonder a bit whether the interior of the 888 kind of looks a bit like cat to me, and I'm not sure whether that can be used in any way here.
It looks a bit like what?
Like the cat like the cat operator.
Yes.
Just an observation, not sure. It can help with this.
But the cat operator is in CDDL, and here we are talking about diagnostic notation, which, by the way, is one of the greatest sins that we committed, that we let these diverge so much. Yeah, you would do similar things in CDDL with a cat, but yeah, there you would say what is actually allowed and not allowed, and this is just an example.
Yeah, but basically some of the rules for verifying that something is that an 888 tag matches, that an 888 tag with a 3-lung array A nil B matches something that matches something could be checked by verifying whether it matches a cat T strict cat B. So
Yeah,
it could be, some of this could be expressed in CDL.
Yes, if you have a really good verifier, I mean, this is not so easy.
That's true.
Okay, so I feel encouraged, and I will use the next instance of free time that I have to actually write this up, and then we can look at the draft and at the implementation.
I'm looking forward to this and playing with this. Thank you. Seeing no questions or raised hands, is there anything else that we missed on the agenda phase that you would like to bring up here today? Because otherwise, I think it would be good to call this a short meeting then. Barry, have I missed something?
Nothing that I'm aware of.
Okay, then I think this was shortened to the point.
Good. So we'll
Thank
give
you,
people a
everybody.
half an hour back, and we'll see people in 2 weeks.
See you in 2 weeks.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.